Here.
Ann Torrey, absent. Rich Adagowski,
Here.
Eileen Hogan,
Here.
Christine Irwin,
Here.
Sean Murphy,
Here.
Ray Mass,
Here.
Sharon Lee,
Here.
Joan Rothwell is absent, Robert Fricker is absent, and Vincent Light.
Here.
Thank you.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been posted at the Borough Hall, filed with the clerk, and mailed to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger. The meeting is being tape recorded, and in the event the applicant uses the services of a court reporter to transcribe the tapes, the board requires a copy of the transcript. We will break at about 8 o'clock for deliberation of testimony heard thus far in the conference room on the first floor. The public is invited to attend, however, discussion between board members and the public is not permitted at that time. No new cases will be heard after 9 o'clock. The zoning board has maintained a policy cutoff hour of 9:30 for its hearing. Any applicants not heard this evening will be carried over to the next scheduled meeting. So, salute to the flag.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A little technical difficulty for a second. Yeah. We have a technical, yeah, we're trying to work that out.
testing, testing. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Still an echo. Yeah, that was good.
Try again.
Okay.
Can you hear me? That's better. I can't really hear myself. Say something. That's that one too.
Okay.
That's better.
This is what's echoing it. Somehow.
But yeah. And I can hear it here too, yeah. Do we disconnect to it? Maybe that's where the background sound from.
There you go.
Alright. Great. Okay, we're good.
Good, okay. All right, so we have two resolutions. We have a resolution of approval, 69 Branch Avenue. Someone wanna,
And Madam Chair, just very briefly, that was an application to improve new front steps, new front portico. And the only conditions were some specified compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations that the applicants made. And I think Sean needed some specific plan details set forth. But if that's acceptable, we can adopt that.
someone wanna move
Yeah,
that?
I'll make a motion approved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, roll call?
Lauren Nicosia.
Yes.
Rich Anagowski.
Yes.
Eileen Hogan.
Yes.
Sean Murphy.
Yes.
Ray Mass.
Yes.
And Vincent Light.
Yes.
Thank you.
Second resolution we have is 156 West Front Street.
Madam Chair, that was an appeal of a decision that the zoning officer made, and after hearing, the board has reversed her decision. And basically, if it's acceptable, we can adopt this resolution as modified, which would say basically the resolution, the zoning officer felt that a conditional use variance approval was required because the conditions were not met, all conditions were not met, and you as a board, among other things, felt that those particular conditions were met and use variance approval was not required. And therefore, by adopting this resolution, you're reversing the decision, which ultimately sends it out to the planning board. So if that's acceptable, it can be adopted as modified.
Motion approved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. Lauren Nicosia.
Yes.
And Troy's absent. Rich Anagowski,
Yes.
Eileen Hogan,
Yes.
Sean Murphy,
Yes.
Ray Mass.
Yes.
Sharon Lee,
Yes.
and that's it. Thank you.
Okay, first application we have is 32 North Bridge Avenue.
Okay, and as the applicant, team comes forward, we'll just do a couple of preliminary procedural things. Is there anyone here who had any questions or comments or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received? All right, don't see any. The board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order, so it would be my humble opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight. And what we'll do is we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is the application package. A2 is the intent to proceed. A3 is a survey, 1 page dated November 22nd, 2019 by Morgan Engineering. A4 is the color rendering consisting of 1 page prepared by Michael Savarese Associates. A5, signed and sealed plans for Morris Plate Glass, 4 sheets, June 29th, 2022, prepared by Michael Savarese. And we're gonna mark as A6 is the review memorandum from our Shauna Ebanks, our Director of Planning and Zoning. Speaking of that, we will swear in Shauna Ebanks, our professional planner. You are the zoning officer, Director of Planning.
I just needed you to check this up here one more time if there's an issue. I don't know if we could adjust it after the fact, but I don't. Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
This is our first hybrid meeting
Yeah.
for the zoning board, so we're trying to work out some issues.
I've been doing that for 46 years.
Everybody shut off your mic really quickly. I'm just. The echo won't go away, so it's. I say. Somebody else say testing or something.
Testing,
Thanks, Rick.
testing. Yeah.
Justin? That's what I'm hearing.
That's blue, they can hear us. Huh?
I think, I don't.
That's thing. Can't hear. Nothing.
Yeah, thank you.
Could that be the problem? Lauren, this is, I thought you said,
Testing.
could this be it? You're right. I think it might need- Muted. Right now it's.
Here, here.
It's just terrible. Guess we should have had a warm-up session with this. When that's blue, they can hear us.
Shauna Ebanks, our Director of Planning and Zoning and a professional planner sworn in, and Ed Herman, our board engineer sworn in. Shauna and Ed, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
All right, let the record reflect both of our witnesses have been sworn. And with that, we will turn it over to Kevin Asadi, the attorney for the applicant. Good evening.
Hey, Mr. Kenny, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Kevin Sadi, Xavier Fuchs, on behalf of the applicant, MP Glass LLC, but you know, of course, is Morse Plate Glass. The project involves revitalizing the facade of the building to make it look more aesthetically pleasing, as well as a roughly 234 square foot addition to the front of the building. And you'll hear more about that. Two witnesses this evening. One is Steve McLeod, who's seated to my right. He is a member of the applicant and the operator of the site. And you'll hear from Michael Savarese, the architect of the project. So without further ado, unless the board has any questions, I'd like to call Steve McLeod.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Red Bank Zoning Board. Could you spell your first and last name and give us your address?
Cloud, STEPHEN.
Just pull the mic up closer to you.
Last name is McLeod, MC, capital L.
I'm sorry, MC.
Capital L.
All right, and you might have to even speak a little bit louder. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Okay, and just for the record, before Mr. Asadi asks you questions, you are a member of Morris Plate LLC?
Yes, I'm the owner.
Okay, and just for the record, because it's a corporate applicant, who are the principals of that company besides yourself? Just so we can do an internal conflict check.
Michael Stabola.
And do any of those names mean any, raise any questions about conflicts? Okay, thank you. And just for the record, Morris Plate LLC is the owner of the property?
Yes,
Okay, and how long have you owned it roughly?
3 years.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McLeod, how long has Morse Plate Glass been in business?
93 years since 1930. Started on Monmouth Street at the Red Bank as a paint wallpaper store.
And do you know for how long they've been in this location?
Approximately 3 years, I bought this property from T&J Auto Body. We were located on Shrewsbury Avenue for the last approximately 20 years.
Okay, and what does Morse Plate Glass do?
So we're basically a glazing contracting company. We cater to customers in the commercial and residential side. Just for an example, we recently did a project for Denholtz Properties, which is the rail about a train station. And I was responsible for furnishing and installing all the storefront entry doors in the building. Besides the commercial side, the residential side also is brake repairs, people's homes, family shower enclosures, tabletops, emergency repairs. I've done a number of work, say, on Front Street, from people coming out of bars and being rowdy at times. People's homes have been broken into. I've been called in for an emergency basis. I service the hospital here in town. I service the private schools, Red Bank Regional, Red Bank Catholic, also Monmouth County as a whole, Long Branch Board of Education, Fairhaven, Rumson Schools. So I have a lot of hands in a lot of areas.
And so in having all these clients and members of the public that you serve, does anybody ever need to come to your building?
Okay, so we also perform a public function in basic retail. So customers will come to us off the street, do phone calls asking for a piece of glass, caulking, weather stripping, windows, and they come to the site, my office. They drop this material off or they pick up material that they're purchasing. So we do very small jobs also as a service to community, people looking for this type of product. There's not that many glazers in this area.
Okay. And so given all that, what was the purpose of wanting to do this project?
Okay, so the office space that's downstairs now is very small. And when you have two people in it, it seems very crowded. Shop space is being utilized to function as efficiently as possible. The materials come in one side of the building, they get fabricated, then maybe they go out the other side of the bed. Certainly can't have customers walking around the shop, it becomes a liability issue, and insurance company like that too much. Because we are dealing with glass. And there's some machinery.
So with this project, would it be safer for people who might come to visit?
It would definitely be safer. It would allow a clearer path for people to walk into the office. It would allow more than 2 or 3 people in there at a time to look at products and services that we provide, architectural drawings, if they might want to use samples and things of that nature. Right now, the space is very confined. And that's my biggest concern.
I don't have anything further for Mr. McLeod.
So you don't have a big retail, a lot of walk-ins.
We have walk-ins. I don't have a showroom.
Yeah.
Okay, so people will come and say, I need a little piece of glass for my window, and I'll cut it for them. They'll come and pick it up. I don't have a place to display any, say, shower glass or antique mirror or anything for that. The front office really is for the retail side of the work, and for the customers that come in because they want to save money. Instead of me going out to the house to perform a service, maybe they're fixing it themselves, providing them product to do that. My office, by the way, is on the 2nd floor. I can't have customers come up to the 2nd floor to walk
Right.
by. It's just not conceivable. If my front office manager is out, I'm upstairs, people come in, I don't even know that they're sometimes.
Little bell.
So then I come running downstairs, and service them. So that's also a little bit of a hindrance. I was hoping to hire an assistant front office manager to help with the phones and logging of paperwork and whatnot, and the space would allow me to potentially stick another workstation, so I can do that. That's something I'm possibly exploring.
Okay, so that's your showroom downstairs.
Basically.
Okay, so you don't have a lot of walk-in.
Not that
Really?
much, well, I say on a daily basis, maybe anywhere from 5 to 20 people will come in, depending upon the day.
Okay.
So it's not like, a store where people are buying necessities off the shelf.
Right, they're just coming in to make plans. You're open Monday through Saturday?
Right now, Monday through Friday, 5. My shop is sometimes working on,
But your showroom will be Monday through Friday.
that's correct.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Anyone from the public have a question for this applicant? Yes, sir. Well, first we're gonna start with a question. Do you have a question? Not yet? Okay. Do you have a comment?
I don't wanna.
If you, no, you can speak. Come on up.
We just had to swear you in, state your name.
Where do I go?
Right here.
My name is Gary Carpenter. I'm on an adjoining property.
You know what, let me just state for the record, and your address.
I live in Middletown, 12 Castle Drive.
Okay,
I have a commercial property on Ridge Avenue, maybe 300 feet from this property.
okay, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to affirm everything that Mr. Morris has said about how friendly they are, how cooperative. Actually, I think before Shrewsbury, he was on Maple. And I dealt with him over there for small projects over the years. Always very, very helpful, cooperative, nothing but positive things to say about the company. Since they bought it from T&J, it's been an improvement on the neighborhood. They've taken down the fence. The fence used to have a lot of trash around it. And since they've taken down the fence, they've removed all the trash. So I would say I would encourage the board to grant whatever they want, but I would ask that maybe they could do a little bit more landscaping in the property. There's planters in the front that, you know, that are empty now, they're just dirt. If there was some shrubbery in there, I think it would look a lot nicer. Okay.
So you're generally in favor.
Oh, I'm 100%.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, anyone else? So we'll close the public portion. Any questions? Someone want to move this application?
He's a second witness.
All right.
I don't think he needs a second. No, yeah. I'll move to approve.
And
One moment, I just wanted to ask the applicant to put on the record if they're going, their signage is a part of this application and whether it complies with the standard.
I can answer that question, and we also have Mr. Savarese here in case the board requires anything on that. But the answer to that question is, the signage that you see in the rendering is just a part of the rendering. It's not intended to be, the actual sign detail that you're looking at. What we can agree with right now is that whatever signage they do settle on will comply with the ordinance.
Okay. So the sign's not part of it. You're going to comply with the ordinance.
Correct.
It's not a problem. So you're not coming back.
We're not coming back. We're gonna
Okay.
comply.
And Madam Chair, just for the record, the variances that are required, Sean, and correct me if I'm wrong, the minimum side yard setback is 10 feet and the rear yard setback is 25 feet, and the pre-existing non-conforming side yard is 0/5.67 feet, and the rear yard setback is 3.58. Okay,
So we have a motion. Someone want to second it?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
and Madam Chair, I think the conditions of approval, if I may, would be compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations the applicants made tonight, their team. Compliance with any affordable housing rules, regulations, contributions, directives, outside approvals. We usually have a 24-month time frame within which they get the permits. And signage comply. Kevin, was that a condition that they're gonna put a little bit more landscaping?
Thank you all for your time.
Okay, we have 187 Riverside Ave.
Mr. Treadwell? Yeah.
Okay. Right, Madam Chair, can I do some preliminary procedural things?
This seems
Oh.
like there's some guy here
Oh, got it.
that was on the agenda, but.
Last thing to do.
Incorporates your.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
Sam is hiding back here. Where do people usually sit? Yes. Wherever you're comfortable, I always come.
Ready to sit too close to me?
Depending on the night.
I'll find you.
Someone's over there, will that might reach over here, so those, I will have a mic.
Went out. He must have left the guy.
That's what she typed up. Read that into the record.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's swear in Ed Herman, our board engineer, and Shauna Ebanks, the zoning officer and director of planning and zoning and professional planner. Ed and Shauna, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you're providing, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
Okay, so let the record reflect that both of them have been sworn. And then next up, we're gonna say, is there anyone here who had any questions or comments or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received? Is there anyone here who had any questions or comments regarding the sufficiency of the notice, public notice you received? If you're gonna question the legal sufficiency of the notice? Yes, comments can be later. All right, so I'm not seeing any questions or concerns about the notice, and I'm gonna say that the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and we found everything to be in order. So it'd be my humble opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed. And just as an aside, as will be explained throughout tonight's meeting, there's some or complicating or nuanced factors. And based upon the initial review of the documentation and subsequent reviews, the applicant's team and the board's professionals, they had noticed, the applicant's team noticed for a meeting 2 weeks ago. Upon further review and upon further critical analysis, an in-depth analysis, we thought maybe it might be better to renotice, and Jennifer Krimko, the applicant's attorney, and Ed and Shauna and I had meetings, and basically we all agreed that out of an abundance of caution, it would be appropriate to renotice, so that Jennifer did this super intense notice. So anyway, just to avoid any legal issues or potential legal issues, the applicant's team did agree to renotice, and we thank Jennifer for that and her team for that, because just eliminating, any issues is always a good thing. So thank you, Jennifer. Next up is just to identify, we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us, just so that we can clear that out of the way. So we'll mark as A1, the zoning application. A2, the zoning application narrative. A3 is the intent to proceed, dated September 14, 2022. A4 is the bulk variance plan prepared by Dynamic Engineering, dated May 4th, 2022, last revised September 7th, 2022, and that was 4 sheets. A5 is a boundary location and topographic survey prepared by Dynamic Engineering, dated August 11th, 2021, that was 1 sheet. A6 will be the notice of hearing. A7 will be the affidavit and certification of service. A8, the affidavit of publication. And then we'll go mark as B1, the T&M Associates Review Memorandum, and that's dated January 30th, 2023. Jennifer, I'm assuming you'll mark into your things later on. And then we're going to turn it over to Ms. Krimko. And then Jennifer, at some point for the record, just like we did with the last application, for disclosure purposes, could you just identify who the principals are of your company and who the owners are, so that we can do an internal conflict check and make sure no issues that we have to address?
Certainly. I don't know that I'm gonna necessarily go in that order, but let me start by introducing myself, Jennifer Krimko from Ansel, Grimm and Aaron, on behalf of the applicant. I want to apologize in advance that this is going to be a paper-heavy hearing. I have a lot of exhibits that I'm going to make copies to hand out to everybody. I have copies to the public. So as we go through the exhibits, that might take a little bit of administrative time. I can stipulate for the record that the applicant Outfront Media LLC is a publicly traded company, and there are no people or entities that own 10% or more. So for conflict purposes, it's a publicly traded company.
Thank you.
And I just want to take a moment to kind of orient you to how we, and I say we because I spoke at length with your attorney, how we would like this hearing to proceed. And Kevin's right, there are some complicated issues. They're complicated primarily based on the way your ordinance is organized and some of the provisions in your. And as Kevin indicated, I basically threw the kitchen sink into the notice. And that was because you guys, Kevin's been here a long time and you know that everything he does is with an abundance of caution. I imagine you've all heard that many, many times out of his mouth. So in an ultra conservative abundance of caution, I literally put anything and everything that may be discussed tonight into that notice. In between the time that I spoke with Shauna and Ed and Kevin, and then had multiple additional conversations, Kevin, and fortunately for everybody, we've crystallized the issues down a little bit. So that's a good thing. So the interpretation portion will be much shorter. So by way of very brief background, we're here, as Kevin said, for 187 Riverside. It's known as Block 4.01, lots 1 and 2. It operates as one parcel, but there are 2 separate lots there. As you're going to hear through the testimony, there were 2 prior historic billboards, one on a roof and one at freestanding. As part of our proposal to modernize the freestanding billboard, and as part of the DOT permit issue for that, we removed the roof sign. So it's just a matter of modernizing the current existing sign. The question becomes, and what we struggled with, and admittedly, I think Kevin would admit this, even he struggled with a bit, is how that structure and or use would be categorized in your ordinance. And I went through, as you saw, many questions within the interpretation portion. We're not going to go through all of that because what I intend to present to you tonight is really going to crystallize it down. It's going to be an analysis of your ordinance. And really the interpretation is going to be limited to, is the D1 variance required, or is it D2 variance required, or is no D variance required? That's ultimately what the interpretation will be. But before we get there, and as I discussed with Kevin, you can't do that in a vacuum. You have to understand what it is exactly we're proposing. So what the intent is, as for the order of events are, I'm going to introduce you to John Antal, who is with the applicant. And he's going to give you a history of the site. He's going to give you some understanding with for the static billboards. I'm sorry, he's general manager for New Jersey for Outfront Media LLC. And then he's going to walk through what we're proposing, why, and answer any questions you might have generally with regard to this type of building. What he's also going to share with you is that through this type of billboard, we're able to offer a public service or a community benefit by allowing the borough to put their emergency services messages on our billboard and even use the billboard when there's empty space. And we'll go through all of that. I then have Tiago Duarte. He is the engineer who prepared the plan, and he will walk through the particulars with you. At the conclusion of those 2 witnesses, you will have all of the information regarding what we're proposing, and you'll have the opportunity to ask questions from them. At the conclusion of that, I would then like the opportunity to make my legal argument as to the interpretation as to what relief is required. Kevin and I spoke. When I'm done with my presentation, Kevin may offer some legal opinion, may defer to Ed in his capacity as the board's planner to offer his opinion, and then I'm going to ask the board to vote individually on each question. First, is a D1 variance required, and then 2 is a D2 variance required. Depending on the answers that the board has, we'll then craft how we're going to proceed with our last witness, who is our professional planner. As to the relief, we concede that we need C variance, so there's no question on that. And I will tell you that I put it in the notice. We also concede probably that we need site plan approval as well. So those issues are off the table, and it's really going to shorten things down. So with a much longer opening than I intended to give, but in an effort to try and set the stage, because while we've been living and breathing this for the past few weeks, this is the first time it's coming to you. What I'd like to do is introduce some additional evidence. I have copies to hand out to everybody. Perhaps I'll hand it to Ed, and Ed, do you think you could?
Hey, Jennifer, can I just interrupt and say one real quick thing? In case members of the board don't know, or members of the public don't know, what Ms. Krimko is speaking about, part of this application is ultimately seeking relief to place the digital billboard, but she's also seeking some interpretations, and that is a unique power that belongs to this zoning board of adjustment. Under New Jersey law, if there's a question about how an ordinance, what an ordinance says or what it means by law, this board has the unique ability to issue an interpretation. We don't see it a whole lot. We have seen it in the past, but I just wanted to throw that in case anyone from the public was confused on that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to state what the exhibits are, but the witnesses will actually go through and explain them. So A9 is the outdoor advertising permit, but I'm going to leave the extra copies on this table in case anyone from the public would like a copy. And this, as you're going to hear, is the permit issued by the DOT as they have the exclusive jurisdiction for regulating these types of signs on highways as it relates to the state code requirements. A10 is a lighting exhibit prepared by Dynamic Engineering, dated 1/6/23. And that is consisting of one sheet. A7 is a sign view angle exhibit.
I'm sorry, A11, I think.
Oh, sorry. A11 is I typed up my own lips. I'm not reading from it. A11 is a sign view angle exhibit dated 2/1/23, and that consists of one sheet.
Steps in, it's okay.
A12 is a sample packet of protocol A of the types of emergency services offerings they make in county, in a blank form. And it gives you an understanding of the template of the types of things that they'll do when you'll hear testimony to that. A13 is what you're going to hear as protocol B, and again, John Antal will explain all of this and what it means. A14 is sample emergency service. And as you'll hear, and it consists of 18 sheets. And what you're going to hear is that this is shared by Outfront with examples of other digital billboards that they have where they are showing the types of public service announcements that they can actually place on these screens. And these are actual pictures. My numbering is off. You notice I have two A14s. A15, we're almost done. A15 are photos of temporary signs on a freestanding structure that the borough apparently has parked on our property in the past for purposes of advertising the website and crossing guards. And that's on the left, and it says temporary borough sign. And on the right is what we could do on a digital billboard for purposes of the same type of sign. That's A15.
Look at this.
And then lastly, is
Jennifer, this, before I get confused, I knew the emergency messaging one was A14.
two A14. So
Okay.
the existing and proposed PSA signs consist of.
Oh, that's A15, got it.
And now A16, I know you're going to be eager to put through this. I ask you to try as hard as you can to get in testimony. But A16 is a photo package of the existing site as well as a photo generated simulation, computer generated simulation of the proposed sign from the same vantage. And that's A16. So. Let's give Sean a moment, to pass that out. Adding one, because everybody's.
Why would you say that?
Let's look at it.
So if I can, before they go into your showcase here, I'd like to address something first up front. So, and I want to be clear, just so we have an understanding before we go further with testimony. One of the existing billboards was on top of the building. I believe that's the one you've taken down, correct?
Correct.
Red Bank right now, its policy is no billboards. Correct? That's why you're here.
Not necessarily,
Where are billboards allowed in Red Bank right now?
again,
So let me go lead you a little further.
asking me a question, so I'm just
Okay.
letting you know that based on your ordinance. The prohibition on billboards is actually found in your design standards. It's not in your zoning use portion. So it's actually not prohibited, but it's also not expressly permitted anywhere as a primary use, which is why we're here.
Okay, so the two billboards were grandfathered in, correct?
Correct.
When you removed, and this is my question for I guess TMU and the borough attorney, or and I'm gonna give it to you. That's why I want to have this now before you go into your,
We're gonna go into all of this.
I'd like to know now. So once the sign is taken down, did they lose the grandfather rights to the existing sign?
So to answer that question.
Then I'll answer it.
That's one of the interpretations you're going to be making. But it is the applicant's position that based on the ordinance, the way it's written, and where the billboard prohibition is located, as well as the case law with regard to modernization of static billboard signs, the answer is no.
You're not modernizing it, you took it down before you even applied for the new application.
Mr. Murphy, we're not, the second billboard's not going back up. So we're not here for the second billboard. The roof billboard that came down is gone forever.
All right, that's
not being applied for.
But I think that was his question.
my point, because
We gave that up.
listen, if, I get you. Because if, I'm not saying this is what's gonna happen, but if we deny what you're here for now, I want it clear before it all comes up, whether we're back to putting the other sign back up, we got two signs, or is that sign officially now off
That sign,
the table?
that sign is officially off the table.
That's all I'm looking for.
Understood your question.
No, that's all I'm looking for, moving forward, that it's basically now we're talking about the one sign and changing it now to the sign you are. The other sign is, for lack of a better way of putting it, is no longer grandfather because it was removed.
Correct. As a structure, it is no longer grandfather.
That's all I wanted to get out before we,
100%, then we're on the same page.
that's all. Thank you.
Just Cutting into I worked really hard.
I know, but
Cutting into my highlight.
I think it affects the way we're looking at it too, that we understand that now we're talking about one sign that exists and what you're looking to put in to replace it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I'd like to phrase it as, if you approve this tonight, what does that mean for the second sign? We can beg to differ. So I thank you for the clarification. So allow me to introduce John, and you know what, I've been saying your name, John, I don't know, if I'm saying it right?
Yeah,
Anton, John Anton, General Manager for New Jersey Outfront Media. As I have him sworn, and I'll have him offer his testimony with regard to Outfront, the existing sign and what we're.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Red Bank zoning board. If you could just raise your right hand and state your name and spell your last name, please.
name is John Antal, last name spelled Antal.
Okay, and business address?
185 US Highway 46, Fairfield, New Jersey.
All right, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
And just for the record, Ms. Krimko indicated you're a general manager for Outfront Media LLC. Thank you.
For the New Jersey market, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so John, I'm gonna turn it over to you to have you walk through first who you are and who Outfront Media is and what you do. What's existing there today and what we're proposing.
Great. So again, my name is John Antal, I'm General Manager of Outfront Media for the state of New Jersey.
I have a degree in marketing from the University of South Florida. I've been in the out-of-home advertising business for 19 years, all of those years with Outfront Media and its predecessor companies. I'm currently been the general manager of New Jersey since 2012, so I've been just over 10 years operating here in the state of New Jersey. My duties and responsibilities overall is that I oversee all aspects of the business here in the state of New Jersey. That includes sales, real estate, operations, graphic design, marketing, and the like. As it relates to what's in front of you here tonight, I direct the market's modernization of existing billboards. Outfront Media itself, as was mentioned earlier, is a publicly traded company. We're on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol OUT. We operate more than 400,000 displays throughout the United States and Canada. Here in the state of New Jersey specifically, we operate over 3,900 displays, 93 of which are digital billboards. We've been
I'm
operating
sorry, I'm in 3,900 billboards.
3,900 displays, 93 of which are digital billboards.
93 which have been either constructed or converted,
That is correct.
and the growing trend is to continue.
That is absolutely correct. That is the growing trend of the company. And we've been operating digital billboards here in the state since 2009. So it's not a new product for us. As it relates to the site itself, we're a lessee of the property. We own the billboard that is on the location that you're hearing the application for tonight. And as we currently do with this application, we will continue to maintain and operate that sign into the future.
So what's being put on the board is actually just one of the sheets from what we.
So with the aerial, I'll highlight here with my laser point. The location of the property is on the southeast corner where Riverside Ave and Route 35 intersect. The property itself, as I'm sure all of you are aware, was operated as an automobile service and gas station for a number of years. The sign that you see there today has been there for over 50 years. It was constructed in the 1960s. As was pointed out earlier, there used to be another billboard that was on the roof. It was 288 square feet, and it was removed as a condition of the New Jersey Department of Transportation permit to make way for this modernization for you tonight. The existing ground sign that remains in the location is 480 square feet. So when thinking about this historically, that property, we've operated messaging on the property that totaled 768 square feet until recently when the roof sign was removed. The lot itself is suitable for this purpose from our perspective. There's already an existing advertising location there. It's the lot itself is good in terms of depth and the size. There's ease of access to construct as well as maintain what is being proposed. And it can be located to meet all the New Jersey Department of Transportation and building code requirements, which is why we were able to obtain the New Jersey Department of Transportation advertising permit for the message sign.
And let's just take a quick pause there, and I know that Kevin had some questions for me, so I imagine the board would as well. For an outdoor advertising sign such as this, where you're renting space to advertise for businesses or users that are not on the premise where the sign is, that's regulated by the state DOT, correct?
That is correct.
And the state DOT, under the New Jersey Administrative Code, has a series of requirements in order to get such a permit.
Yes.
Okay, and what we moved into evidence already as A9 is the permit that has been issued by the DOT, which is renewable in March.
That is correct. We renew it annually.
Okay, I wanted to just explain why you're referencing the DOT.
I just have a question. So this renewal, this is just for a regular billboard
Now, this is the approval for the
to modernize it?
modernized digital sign.
Okay, so this is just a permit to do that if you get approved.
Correct, it's always
Okay, you
subject.
just stay the way it is.
Correct, it's always subject to the municipality's approval. But
Okay.
we have approval by the State Department of Transportation that we meet all of their safety standards and other regulations to convert it to a digital.
Okay, and how big's the current sign?
Gonna get there. Can you answer the question? Yeah, I think it's 480 square feet.
480 square feet, yes.
480, and that's the current size.
That is the current
Okay.
size.
Because the other 700 was just the combined.
Combined, correct. So
The
we're
480 plus the 288 that was on the roof previously.
Okay, but currently the sign that you want to,
replaced.
modernize is 480.
Yes, and I think the board chairwoman knows, I don't pull any punches. I'm not gonna try.
Of course not.
I'm not gonna try and pretend that we're going from 800 to what we're proposing. This is all just part of the history for it, and I thank you, Mr. Murphy, for pointing that out from the beginning, because yes, we. Right, it's 480 to whatever we're. Any other questions?
Not at this time.
Great. So another reason for the lot suitability here is its nearness to Cooper's Bridge, the highway visibility, the ability for traffic to visually see the sign and to comprehend the messaging that's being conveyed is part of what we look for in that site suitability. And as a matter of fact, your master plan calls that area the gateway to Red Bank. And we feel that this application can help enhance that and work forward with the master plan intending to achieve. We call it that.
And just for the record and be totally just for Shauna, it's not adopted yet. Okay, got it. So it's proposed. Got it.
Proposed master.
Thanks.
Both master scheduled for adoption February 8th. Well, scheduled for hearing and adoption. So.
Thank you.
So to talk about our application and in particular, the sign itself that is being proposed in our application. As it is now, it will be remaining one panel. The height of the structure is being proposed at 40 feet. The square footage, which was pointed out, is currently at 400 feet. Square footage for this new sign will be 454.72 square feet. So a 25 square foot reduction.
Excuse me, what's the current height of that existing sign?
I'm sorry, sir.
What's the current height of the existing sign?
The sign structure altogether is 22 feet.
And you're proposing 40
Correct.
for the new one. Thank you.
And I know everybody's gonna have opinions about it. We're gonna get there.
Oh, yeah.
So the physical dimensions of that square footage, the sign height.
The sign panel,
The sign face.
And I sorry to interrupt, I just want to clarify, we're gonna throughout this distinguish the sign structure, which includes the pole and the base and the foundation and the digital screen. And then the sign itself, which is the sign message, and that's the sign face. So when you hear him talk about the sign, we're only talking about the sign message and the graphic.
The dimensions of the sign face is 11.55 feet by 39.37 feet.
I'm sorry, 11.55 feet
High,
In height.
by 39
37 feet wide.
wide, and that's what's proposed.
That is what is being proposed.
Got it.
and just so the board knows, the engineer is gonna go into much greater detail with regard to the existing sign.
The support that is being proposed is a single steel pole. And the nature of the sign itself, as we're all very well aware, is a multi-message digital sign.
Before we go on, I just want to ask one question. Is it physically possible to take off the static sign that we have today and plop a digital sign on top, or are there special supports and electronic components in order to modernize it and create a digital sign?
We can't simply modernize it by taking off what's there and slapping up a digital screen. We have to reconfigure the structure, we have to have a new foundation, we have to have new steel support. So this is not as simple as,
So by definition, in order to modernize, it has to be replaced.
that is correct.
Okay, let's move on. So
So just. And if you want to wait to answer this, I'm fine with it, but just so we're talking about the height of it. So it's 40
40 feet.
to the top. What's it to the top of the old sign
22 feet.
and what's it to the bottom of the new sign?
You're gonna have to ask the engineer when he comes
Okay.
up here, because, well, as you see, I memorized a lot of stuff.
No, that's all right. That's why I thought you might want to wait, but that's okay. I know you're not. That's fine.
Not what, Mr. Murphy?
So I'm saying that it's,
Kidding.
I'm just saying from what I'm hearing, the sign, the new sign is sitting completely higher than the existing sign. That's all.
No question.
Right.
So something to consider when, we selected this property. One of the ways that we're able to continue with this application before you tonight is that this property and the application meets all the DOT requirements and standards, which is why we do have a DOT permit for the modernization of this location. The property itself has had a sign existing on it since the sixties. And one of the reasons for our application to actually physically move the sign is that the expansion of Cooper Bridge went from 2 lanes when this sign was built in the sixties to now 4 lanes, and shifting the structure westward on the property toward the Navasink River is going to allow for better visibility of the sign itself
From Cooper's Bridge.
from Cooper's Bridge.
So the original sign was lined up with the 2 lanes from Cooper's Bridge, and now we're just trying to line it up with the 4 lanes.
Correct.
Okay.
Trying to catch up.
All right, so now let's go into a little bit of detail with regard to how we got the permit and what the state considers.
Yeah, so in order to obtain the state permit, we have to fill out a very detailed application to create the Department of Transportation Outdoor Advertising Division. They review the permit itself, but they also do a field inspection to ensure that what is being proposed meets all the requirements, including those for traffic safety and visibility. So seeing as that we were granted the permit, we meet all of those requirements and are allowed to move forward with the modernization, which is why we're here before you tonight. As mentioned previously, that permit is up for renewal annually, and that process starts occurring in March of 2023. Our intention to renew it at the state level at that time. When you think about how long that billboard has been on site, a lot of things have changed, not just in the borough of Red Bank, but also in the industry in which that sign exists. There is a long history of signage and it becoming modernized over time. When billboards first started, they were hand painted on pieces of wood that were then attached in some way, shape, or form to some kind of structure, whether it was a pole or the side of a building. Then companies evolved, technology became more prevalent. They began to print advertising on paper, and you would use that paper along with glue or paste to attach it to the structure itself and be able to change messages faster and speed up the process that way. Then came another evolution and the printing of large vinyl products, which could be a single sheet of vinyl, 10, 20, 50 feet in width and height, and they can be fixed to a wood or steel backing and attached to a structure with ratchets, which is what you currently see at the location we're talking about tonight in its present state. For a short while, the industry thinking about multi-message and the ability to have different advertisers present on a face had a product called a Trivision, which is very similar to the blinds that are in this room, where there are multiple messages that mechanically move on movers that turn periodically to the mechanism. That technology, thankfully, is no longer needed because we have what is before you tonight, which is a digital multi-message sign, and that is where the evolution of our business is headed, is towards that electronic messaging and capability.
And just to clarify, I know that this is the language that you speak. When you say multi-message, you mean a sign that allows us to change messages over the course of a minute. I know we're going to get into it, but you've said it a few times. So a single message is a fixed static sign, correct?
That is correct.
And a multi-message is what allows us to digitally or electronically change. We're going to remove it.
That is correct.
Just to clarify that.
So to kind of expound on that, the digital signs themselves are made up of an array of diodes that are arranged on a panel. Those panels are then connected to form a digital screen. That digital screen is affixed to the structure, and that is how the digital billboard sits and operates. We'll have the engineer testify a bit further about that, but I'm happy to answer any general questions.
So it's basically an LED.
It is, it's an LED. The actual operation of the sign itself, we're heavily regulated by the Department of Transportation Outdoor Advertising Division. And what we do is in accordance with all of those regulations. We change the ad instantaneously every 8 seconds. Our company operates in a advertising loop that incorporates a total of 8 advertising spots. So we have upwards of 8 advertising messages that run in succession or in a cycle. The physical contact needed at the location is very minimal. And not having to have people climb the structure like they do now and change out the message as frequently as the advertiser wants. It can all be done remotely through a secure internet connection. The sign message change has to be done instantaneously. This is something that is heavily regulated by the Department of Transportation. If we don't abide by that, we can lose our permit and our operating license in the state. So this is something that has to be done instantaneously. And
When you say instantaneously, you mean it can't fade in and fade out, it can't, like you sometimes see when you make an iMovie, where one picture comes in and the other one goes out.
Yep.
You're not gonna see it happen.
correct, it's not like a screensaver on your computer or anything like that. There's no waving, there's no any type of transition period. It is an instantaneous change from static image to static image. And I say that because, again, one of the things that is very clear in the regulations and is not permitted in any way, shape, or form by the DOT is motion. No motion, no animation, no video, no appearance of motion, no waving, nothing having to do with that is allowed by the Department of Transportation. So if we are to stay in good standing, if we are to remain valid with this permit, we have to abide by those regulations. And
I'm sorry, what were those 3? No motion, no animation, no
no video,
video.
no appearance of motion.
Thank you.
I would
Excuse
assume
me,
no sound.
There is no sound. That is correct.
another question. How often would you be changing from one ad to another?
It's 8 seconds.
8 seconds. And you don't consider that kind of motion?
Doesn't move as,
Okay.
I think everybody's familiar, and just because from a local perspective. There are digital billboards, there's one on in Ocean Township on Route 35 North, right after Sunset Avenue. And again, you don't see it move, it just, you blink your eye, one thing is there, you blink your eye again, the new one is there, and then there's the V-shaped one by the Monmouth Mall. And again, it doesn't move, it just changes its picture.
So another item to discuss is the lighting, the light of the sign. Obviously, it is a digital sign, it's an LED, so there is light from it. It is, the light that emits from the sign is automatically adjusted using a photocell that is part of the structure and the screen face itself. It relates to, it changes in relationship to the natural light surrounding the location. So think about when it's darker outside, the screen is at a much lower brightness than it would be if the sun was shining directly on it. Our engineer will go into a little bit more detail on that, but I'm happy to answer any broad questions regarding that. The current sign itself is illuminated at nighttime. We're proposing that as well at this location to be operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As I stated, when it's darker out, it's going to be dimmed down so that it remains at a low mittens level.
Our current sign doesn't have that feature. Our current sign remains, the lighting stays the same throughout the night.
Correct. It's fixed lighting on the current sign that is there. So that lighting is the same, whether it's cloudy, dark, light, whatever it is. That light being emitted to the sign is going to be exactly the same level, regardless of the conditions around it. The sign itself is monitored both by camera and by computer. And if there's any problems with the sign, we have the ability to remotely turn it off. So we don't have to send somebody out to fix a problem. We can remotely access the controls and turn everything off so that there's nothing visible should there be some type of issue with the screen itself.
And also, there's an internal malfunction fail-safe that it will shut down as the lane or
Correct.
do anything that might violate the DOT regulations.
Correct, being regulated by the DOT, we have to have that critical fail safe, yes.
So obviously, we're going through a lot of trouble to be here and to modernize this sign. So what are the benefits, not only to the applicant, the ability to change copy, but to the borough, to the general public for going from static to digital?
Yeah, so the biggest benefit for our advertisers and the people that we do business with is that they're able to display timely and relevant messaging based on various things, whether it's the time of day, weather conditions, or other facets that are going on in their business or the elements around them. The best example I can give is that a restaurant can run their breakfast specials in the morning, their lunch specials in the afternoon, their dinner specials in an evening. That where you can change these things automatically without having to send somebody physically to the sign, access it, and change the ad. This is all done remotely, and we're able to accommodate that for our advertisers and give them more flexibility, and they can be more relevant and be in front of the public in a more engaging manner. The presentation technology is substantially better because it does adjust to the ambient light. This is not a constant light source. This is something that's going to adjust to the ambient light and allow the message to be seen clearly regardless of the conditions around it.
I have a question. I'm just curious, is it ever longer than 8 seconds? Like if someone came to you and says, I want a longer show. That ever happened to you?
We haven't had that. Sometimes people will buy multiple, like they want, it's called, we refer to it as a share of voice. So sometimes somebody will say, I want two spots. But in all cases I've dealt with, they buy them at different points.
In the
You know?
cycle, in your
Yeah.
cycle. So nobody says, I want 16 seconds.
No, we
Like
have not
together.
had that. We have had some advertisers who have bought all of them.
Okay,
So, but again, they change their messaging every 8 seconds. So for an example I can give is Verizon. Verizon has all 8 spots on a digital billboard near the Lincoln Tunnel. And they'll promote the new Samsung Galaxy, and then the next, it's the new family plan. And then after that,
and this is at the Lincoln Tunnel.
this is the one near the Lincoln Tunnel. There are, again, operating 93 digital billboards throughout the state. We have a number of them throughout all the counties we service.
Any in Homedale,
We do. We do.
Rumson,
No, none in Rumson.
Little Silver,
We have a 14x48 digital on Homedale on Route 35.
335.
And then further south, we have a unit in Ocean Township near the Wegmans, across from the Wegmans. Those would be the 2 closest to the location here.
And just to, not to be argumentative to the point chair, but just to point out, there are no state highways in Rumson or in Little Silver.
Right, so it wouldn't make any, well, you wouldn't make any money there.
It's not a matter of even making money. These are typically found and they're typically appropriate on a state highway based on a certain traffic.
Okay.
So, yes, we're up to the public. So let's now reference the emergency messaging sign that we went through. So this one and obviously this is the biggest public benefit as it relates to what we're proposing. And this is A14. So if you want to, this is this exhibit that I passed out. I want to walk the board through that exhibit.
So 814 consists of 3 separate sections. The first section is titled Emergency Messaging. One of the public service benefits, the ability to display emergency messages at various levels, whether it's federal, state. The 3 examples that you see in this part of the packet are a FBI missing, a Amber Alert, as well as an FBI remote one.
And what you're showing photos of, these are actual digital billboards.
These are digital billboards in New Jersey. And this is, not a superimposed image. These actually did run here in the state of New Jersey.
And the reason that I asked to clarify is when you look at the picture, it's hard to tell if it's static billboard or digital billboard because of the way that the light adjusts to the ambient. We hear from the engineer, we're going through some lighting exhibits. There is no light radiating from this billboard. It's lit up so you can see it, but it really looks like you're watching a television or looking at a photo.
The second section of the packet is titled Public Service Announcements. These are public service partnerships that we have throughout the state of New Jersey. They're localized partnerships, as well as some letters from those partnerships that talk about how we work with them and promoting their message throughout the state. And again, these are items that have run and are currently running with us.
By Make-A-Wish.
We've got one for Make-A-Wish, we've got another for the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. Third one is for the Boys and Girls Clubs in New Jersey. The letters that accompany each of those. The third section is the municipal announcements section. So these are pictures of municipal announcements that are posted or have been posted here in New Jersey, as well as some letters from those townships or cities regarding the partnership we have with them. The first one is from Stafford Township with their shopping pharmacy hotline. The second one is in downtown Denville, which they're running a campaign that encourages people to shop, dine, and promote their downtown being rated the best in Morris County. We'll be that in Morris County. And then the final one is some samples from Springfield Township. I include these to show the design capabilities of my team and the towns, not just what the towns provide us, but we do have the ability to design things as well.
And also, this is the example of the type of sign that can be shown at a gateway as you enter
Correct.
into a borough.
Correct. You're welcoming people to town. You're promoting different festivals, different events that are going on, different things that the community would be interested in to know, as well as visitors.
And all of this public benefit, this is not possible with this type of sign, this is only possible.
That is correct. And it makes this possible.
Okay, and we handed out, and it's somewhere here,
I do,
reference what we
question.
as.
I do have a quick question, just looking at, just for visuals for me, these signs. What's the height? I mean, if you have to know, I happen to know, I'm just saying, they all look a similar height, but, how high up are they? These ones, what would their height be? Would it be the 40 feet?
It depends on the location. So I think trying to find one of the best representation. The third page, it's number 3. This is the Amber Alert
Mhm.
on page 3. The size of the screen is 14 feet by 48 feet.
Without being a master kitchen, that's bigger than what.
It is larger than what we're proposing. And I believe the approximate height here, and I'm rough guessing this, is 50 feet.
Okay, okay.
But again, it's not necessarily apples to apples, but I'm doing the best.
No,
Yeah, no, I just like visual looking at the cars and
I might be on the side of the road, taking it from the angle to make sure.
And Ms. Hogan, we do have samples of what the 40-foot sign at this size will look like from the highway.
Right, okay.
Side street. So before I go on to the types of agreements you have with the towns, what I moved in is 815. On the left, it says temporary borough sign. These are photos of actual structures that were placed on the property and utilized by the borough.
That is correct.
And then on the right is the type of sign and this that we could offer the borough in order to convey the same message, but obviously to a much bigger group of people, more visible and with much more detail.
Correct. These were designed by my design team.
But you could obviously work with the borough for whatever type of design or message that they want.
Absolutely.
And this is a free service.
And that, you read my mind, that would be the next step. I'm trying. How does that work? How does your agreement work with the town? And let's talk separately from emergency services,
Yeah.
which obviously are free and immediate, versus public service announcements for promotion of the borough's events.
Right, so that was the protocol B. If
So
it
what,
were-
and that actually was leading me into it, Madam Chair, was what I was saying is moving into A12 and A13. So we handed out. Let's start with A12. Which is entitled Local Emergency Services LED Multi-Message Sign. So why don't we walk through, this is for emergency services, let's walk through how that works and how you interact with the town or the county or even the state.
So,
For example, if the state had a state of emergency, those on state highways.
it could be posted on this, yes. The municipal use protocol A is for highly emergent messaging, public safety messages from the town, things like evacuation notices, homeland security and similar items. This is not, routine traffic alerts or municipal notices. We establish a designee with the town. And we, as well as a backup, not just this, but a backup as well, and we assign a unique verification code to the town that our designees are aware of and keep it in readiness to verify who they are when they're talking to people in our organization. When the use is needed, the town's designee reaches out to our digital operations 24-hour hotline. Typically, that's somebody from either the OEM or the police department who's going to be reaching out to us. They could also use our email address, but typically these things are done using the hotline. They'll identify themselves, they'll give us the town's unique code to verify who they are, and they will tell us what the specific message that needs to be displayed is. Our team then creates that message and immediately sends it to the display. The emergency message overrides any advertising and is displayed exclusively for at least 1 hour. And then it moves into rotation with existing advertising until the emergency is passed. Should the need arise where it needs to be up for longer than that 1 hour, we would of course accommodate that for the town. It's unknown what the emergency could be. It could be something that, is not needed for as long as an hour, and that's fine. We'd be happy to remove it then. It's just a guideline that we use.
And this, to follow up on Richard's question, is a free service that you offer.
This is a free service that we offer. So phone call would need to be made, identify themselves, give us the code, tell us what needs to go on the billboard. The message will be displayed.
So now let's talk about municipal advertising. They're having a dance, or there's some kind of townwide yard sale. How does that work?
So that would be protocol B, which would be.
Was A13, yes.
So in A13, the process is similar. Out front provides the township with the ability to display the non-emergency municipal messages and announcements when the space is available on site. Typically, this comes from somebody in the rec department or town administration, comes that point person to work with myself and my team to let us know what's needed on the sign. We establish that relationship. We provide a welcome kit. Some towns do prefer to design their own billboards. Not every town has that capability, so we do offer a free design service. We just request that we are given ample notice prior to the design wanting to be posted. We need approximately 3 to 5 working days to make sure we're providing a quality product back to our municipal partners. Once we've done the design, it's been approved, or you've sent a design to us, we would immediately put that into rotation on the space available on the sign, and you would be in rotation with other advertisers for as long as the sign is operational, and we would proceed that manner.
And this again is a free public service that you offer the borough.
It is a free service we offer the borough.
So you just knock out the paying people and just put a free service in.
No, it's when there is space available.
Okay, so an emergency, I would assume,
Emergency,
space will be available.
emergency, there's.
But if a town wants to put up, like, we're having a festival, or something like that, it's like, well, we don't have the space available, or you put it in there.
If
How's that work?
if the space is available, the message will be able to be run. If the sign is sold out, it would not be available.
Okay, so then you couldn't do, what I would assume you'd want to sell it out, yeah?
You would, but.
I mean, for your company, you want the
Let's,
money.
let's talk practical.
Yeah,
Are the signs all sold out, or is there often space available that can be given to municipalities?
typically we operate at a 10 to 15% availability rate in the busiest of seasons.
Okay, so sometimes you have a little, yeah, a little space.
Sometimes we have more.
All right, so the minimum you have is 10 to 15% of the overall cycle in 24 hours.
That is
Could
typically,
be donated to the borough, and if it's not as busy,
yes, if the space is not sold to what we call the advertising loop, that series of advertisers automatically shortens so that you would actually receive more time on the sign during those times.
Do you have specific blocks of times that are more popular than others? Say midnight to 6, you might have a lot of open time because people don't want to advertise then.
It's pretty rare that advertisers in our business want to buy, that's typically referred to as day parts. They typically would want to buy a full day or a week or a full month. So it's very rare that we would have somebody who would want to come in and just buy a certain chunk of hours. in a
So
day.
I want to plant a seed, and it's certainly, we're not at a point where we're talking about conditions of approval. But I just want to plant a seed that have there been times where as conditions of approval, you've committed to a certain amount that is being donated to the municipality.
Yes, we have.
So that's just something to think about that's not off the table.
I'm interested in reading more about your protocol B, but the exhibit that you handed out has protocol A attached to
So I
it.
handed two out, there's protocol A and protocol B.
Up to B, the second page is protocol A.
No, it's just stapled together.
There's not a second page for protocol B?
You might have copied the cover of A into B.
Yeah, it made it just copy together. Good, great question, if you can take one. Well, thank you for reading it so far. It's like- Yeah, protocol B is one page, so all I did was I accidentally. In
Okay.
full disclosure, I did the photocopy, so my problem.
Therein lies the problem.
There's like,
If my assistant done it, it would have been perfect. I apologize. Okay. So. Is there anything else you want to, obviously, we're answering the question, is there anything else about the company that you'd like to add and it's.
The only other thing I would add, we kind of talked in the beginning about, we're this big giant national corporation out here and all this good stuff, but I'm local. We as a company have a big local presence. We have 2 offices, one in Fairfield, one in Lakewood. We have, New Jersey residents who work for us. We are locally based. We're easily accessible to the town. And, I think the packet that was handed out shows that we are parts of communities. We enjoy our partnership with municipalities we do business with. And we, look forward to the rest of this process and hopefully get approval.
Do you have any partnerships more local, like in Monmouth County?
In Monmouth County, yes, we actually, the Homedale, we work.
The one on 35?
The one on
34?
35, we work with the police department tends to use the sign in Homedale. Our friends down in Ocean Township have put up various messages and the signs down there. We've worked with Old Bridge.
Okay, I'm just thinking Monmouth County.
Just trying to think of the inventory we have in close proximity to here. So we do have a number that we work with in the area.
Are you planning on modernizing all your signs?
By way of the DOT regulations, that can't be done. There are spacing requirements as part of the permit application, and from the DOT, you have to have 3,000 feet, linear feet So it wouldn't physically be possible for us to modernize all of our signs in New Jersey.
Okay, so you have a couple signs in Red Bank, correct? Along the railroad
over 20.
tracks. Okay, are you planning on modernizing and digitizing all of those also
We have no other plans to do that
at this point?
at this time.
But this is the only one you're doing in Red Bank, we're trying to do.
At this time, yes.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question. It's just been on my mind. I'm reading all of this. I'm reading all of this too, but there's something that's in the back of my head. The ordinance, it would be more for you, Sean.
Just speak right into
I'm
that.
sorry. The ordinance for Red Bank, the digital, I thought it was prohibited.
We're gonna go through a full analysis of the ordinance and what is and it's not permitted. So if I could just get a hold on that one until we get to the implementation. This is just to give you a background of what we're doing, what we're proposing to do, so it makes sense when I give you the legal argument.
Okay, thanks.
Excuse me, I have a question for you. You're an emergency messaging. You are a messaging company. That is what you do. The only Black male that shows up here shows up on the sign for murder. I find it offensive. I find it just so out of pace with where we're trying to go. I realize that these are your actual signs that you have selected from different places, but you could do better. If you're presenting to a council in a diverse town, you can do better than this. Which is whether it's out front marketing, whether you made the copy, whether it's a secretary, it doesn't matter. This is not the message that you want to present when you're presenting to a town that's on the forefront of doing better.
Appreciate the comment. I apologize on behalf of the applicant. I'm noticing that we're not including it. And we need to do that.
Any other questions? And is that?
One question, I'm trying to
Yes.
visualize this billboard. I'm trying to visualize the billboard. And right now, it's on a lot that has been abandoned. What does that restrict? If somebody wants to come in and put a building there, I mean, are there some kind of arrangements that you make that buildings can be put in front of it? I mean, how does that work?
So I think you're asking, is there any kind of easement or site protection with regard to the billboard and what could be developed there?
I mean, we're a lessee of the property. We don't own the property, we own the billboard. So, you know, it's something we would have to work with the property owner. You know, when they develop the location, that we would obviously want to protect our interest and, you know, they want to make sure that we're a happy tenant. So I'm sure we would be in communication with them regarding the development on the property and ensuring that it doesn't impact what we are attempting to do on there.
And is the tenant here on behalf of your application?
You are the tenant.
I'm sorry, the landlord.
The owner, the
Owner.
property happens to be here and he did sign all the forms authorizing this, yes.
Okay. Is he gonna be part of your
He
testimony?
is not, he's not part of my application, but I imagine if there are questions that are relevant to the application, I'm certain that we can get you the answers.
Has the lease been signed?
Sorry?
Has the lease been signed?
Yes, we have a lease on the property. We're the lessee.
That's not part of the exhibits?
No, it's the lease that's been renewed and it's been there for 60 years. Correct.
Yes.
So this is the ongoing, no, it's not.
Okay.
Madam Chair, could I just ask a couple, just. I don't even know if this is,
You guys, I'm very close to it. I'm having trouble hearing it, so I imagine people in the background.
I don't know, or just out of curiosity, do you do a study to when, as you said, there's spatial limitations with the DOT as to when you can have how many digital billboard signs? Do you do a study as to why you want this site? And I'm just curious, I don't want any trade secrets or any specific financial information, but I mean, does it make it more marketable if it's bigger, if it's taller, if it's seen farther away, or by the number of cars that drive by on a daily basis? I mean, what factors do you consider that, or would an advertiser consider? I'm assuming combination of all of these things.
I mean, I would refer back to the site suitability that I referenced earlier in my testimony. making sure that we have access to the location, that it can easily be constructed as well as maintained, and really making sure that it can meet all DOT requirements for both safety as well as the construction. Things of the sign.
But I mean, you're in the business of selling outdoor advertising space, so certainly in an area where it's high traffic. And it's busier is going to be a more suitable location perhaps than one elsewhere.
Yes, in most cases, those have a higher demand.
So part of the reason why we have numerous billboards, in Red Bank, one of the reasons other than all of the DOT restrictions is that a highly visible location at the base of the major bridge in the Red Bank.
That is correct.
Do you have a traffic study on how many cars come over that bridge on a daily basis?
Do not.
Thank you.
Do digital signs produce more revenue? I'm sorry, I'll speak louder. Do digital signs produce more revenue than static signs?
It depends.
Explain.
Some locations, yes, some locations, no. I believe what you're at, if I could jump ahead, I think what you're asking is, do we anticipate this sign to make more money than it currently makes?
Nah.
Okay. Sorry, I missed.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to understand because you're the company representative. Yes, Ms. Krimko, I see you, but I'm still gonna ask the question. I understand that you're the company representative and I don't understand. I don't have any numbers of how digital signs work or what the revenue generated by them is. But I can make an assumption that if you could sell more space because it changes every 8 seconds, that it would be a bigger revenue generator. I'm not saying profitability. I'm saying that you might generate more revenue. On a whole, do digital signs generate more revenue than static signs?
You're comparing 93 signs to an additional 3,800 and that's what I'm hearing is you're comparing the 93 digital signs that I operate to the other 3,000 plus and that are not digital.
No. Maybe I misphrased my question. I apologize. So we have one sign. Let's call it that bottle of San Pellegrino. If you change that sign from a static sign
Yes,
to a digital sign,
yes,
does the digital sign generate more revenue?
yes.
Very good. So you just testified earlier that you don't, your company, I apologize, I know you're not your company, but you're a representative. Your company does not intend right now on digitizing or modernizing, I don't know why I can't talk tonight, any other signs in the borough of Red Bank, correct?
That is correct.
But that could change, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Nagowski, I wasn't interrupting or correcting you. I apologize.
Oh, just show your hand. That's
I
fine.
was trying to clarify a question and I think something that was left out of the testimony, and I just wanted to explain it. It goes in furtherance of your question. When you look at a billboard, a static billboard versus a digital billboard, when you buy space on a static billboard, you're buying a whole pizza.
Yes.
So you're gonna spend more money for a whole pizza individually. So if I'm buying a static billboard, it might cost me more money out of my pocket as a business owner for the whole pizza that stays up for a month, as opposed to just an 8-second slice.
That is correct.
Okay, so while the accumulation of the 8-second slices might add up to the same or more than the whole pizza, thereby making it more profitable and able to be served by more people. What it does in the converse, it allows people with less money or small local businesses to have a shot at billboard advertising because they're able to just spend the amount for a slice as opposed to having to buy the whole pizza.
Correct.
I love the analogy, but if I go buy a slice of pizza for $2.25, but I can buy the whole pizza, all 8 slices for $12, then the person I'm buying the pizza from would get more profit out of the fact that he sold 8 slices at $2.25. Right. So.
And he agreed.
No, it's fine. So I agree that. No, it's fine. So the accessibility, I agree. It would be easier for, say, somebody like AV Murphy, right? Or AV Murphy Builders to put up a sign or put up a billboard. It would be more cost effective. But ultimately, the company itself does make more revenue off of digital signs.
And we're a
Okay.
publicly traded company and our job is to make money.
Well, the parent company is publicly traded, the LLC is not publicly traded,
Well, it's fully owned, I think, by.
the wholly owned subsidiary. Okay, that's fine.
I got a question. Do you currently own other billboards in Red Bank?
Yes,
Do you own all of the billboards in Red Bank?
I don't know.
I think he testified there were about how many in Red Bank?
I believe we have just over 20. I think it's 22. But I don't know if that's all. No, I can tell you for a fact it's not, because at the end of, drawing a blank on the road,
Newman Springs.
main drag, all the restaurants.
Broad Street.
Thank you. At the end of Broad Street, there are 2 billboards on roofs. We own one of them. The other one is not ours. So we do not own all the billboards in Red Bank.
And so if this approval was passed, there would be no more digitation of any billboards in Red Bank.
I can't guarantee that. I didn't say that.
Thank you. That's what I need to know.
By quite a few times that we're not committing to that.
Yeah.
This is, as you know, and I'm obligated to say this in an abundance of caution for the record. Every application rises and falls on its own merits. So whether there's no digital billboards coming or 100 is not really relevant to what we're proposing here today. Based on this very unique set of circumstances and all of the very compelling testimony you're going to hear from all of the witnesses.
I just have one question about the outdoor advertising permit that we got from the state of New Jersey. I don't see anything about safety. That's a pretty, the intersection right there.
I can address that.
And there's nothing about safety. Do they look at that or they just pass it on and
Nope. They
pay your fee and that's it?
So I'll put it in for the record and I can certainly share it with Mr. Kennedy. NJAC, New Jersey Administrative Code 16:41C 4.1. And that falls under roadside control and outdoor advertising, and the subchapter 4 is restrictions. And what it does is it lists all of the safety restrictions must be met in order to get a billboard permit. And just by way of some examples, and again, I'm happy to share it with Kevin. Signs cannot contain illumination, flashing, intermittent scrolling, and moving lights. Specifically, subsection G says, no sign shall be of such a type, size, or character or placed at a location that will endanger or injure public health, public safety or health, or pose a physical threat to property or vicinity thereof. So they actually examine each and every application to ensure full compliance. And just to go a little bit further, just so you understand how thorough it is. No sign shall be of such an intensity or brilliance to cause glare or be otherwise operated in a manner that impairs the safe operation of motor vehicle. Illumination of sign shall be shielded to prevent light from being directed at any portion of the main traveled roadway. And then it says that no sign shall be erected or maintained in a manner that may impair the vision of a motorist. So that's among the restrictions, and now that I read them into the record, I'll ask our expert in this permitting. Is that something that the DOT examines for each and every sign?
Yes, it is.
So they did a study and saw that you're coming off 35 and you have a choice of 3 roads to go into, and they thought it would be safe to have a billboard up there blinking every 8 seconds.
It's not, respectfully, it's not blinking.
Okay, I'm sorry,
It's
wrong word.
It's instantly changing.
Okay.
Its message.
And they thought that would be okay.
They not only thought that, but they're experts who review this, and the safety is not regulated by municipal. Safety is regulated by state code. Yes, they found it to be safe, and then it met all of their.
Right. Maybe it's me. I just want to clarify something with your pictures. So looking at this, I'm sorry.
Are you looking at an exhibit we didn't get?
Oh, you didn't get to that yet? I was just fumbling through it. I'll get to it when you get to it. Okay, Mike,
Well,
well,
note for the record that I just informed Mr. Murphy, he's not supposed to be looking at that.
love the ice cream.
Madam Chair, if I could just ask, in terms of, just for the record, we're talking about a digital billboard. Obviously, well, not obviously, you're only proposing to have one side digital, correct? It's not two sides.
Yes, the testimony, yeah, Madam Chair, I don't know if you can hear it up there, there's a lot of conversation going on in the back of the room, maybe we could.
Maybe everybody can keep it down because we're having technical difficulties and this is our first hybrid meeting, so we're also broadcasting to the town. So if everybody can just.
So the question is it digital on one side or two sides?
It is digital on one side, the same side that it currently is a static vinyl image.
And when we get to the exhibit that Mr. Murphy is, you can see that there is a photo of what it looks like in the back.
Okay, and then just for the record, the A9, which is the DOT permit that you submitted, now it's dated October 13th, 2021. And just for the record, and I'm sure this is it's correct, but just the plans that the DOT approved are the plans that we are looking at now, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, that's good.
And that permit has been renewed each year subsequent.
Very
It's
good.
Still valid in the state.
And then the other thing is, just in terms of, and I know we're gonna have testimony about the height and things like that, but just as a practical matter, for the record, why it's 22 feet now and you're want to go 40, what's the difference? What's the difference? Why did you say 40 as opposed to 30 as opposed to keeping it 22?
That's something I can answer because in this zone, the maximum height for a principal use is 40 feet. So we wanted to ensure that we were not seeking any kind of variance for height. So it really was set based on, obviously, the taller it is, the more people can see it. We're not going to pretend that that's not the case. But recognizing that it's a non-permitted use to have a sign as a principal use, we wanted to make sure that at least from a structure perspective, it complied with the height. So it's based on your ordinance requirements, I'm sorry, your ordinance provisions, which allow for a principal use and structure to be.
I do have to ask this question, and this is a real question. It's not like I'm not going down any path. You're saying principal use. Why is it now the principal use?
So, I was pleased that your engineer is the one who pointed out.
Yeah.
And this is part of the interpretation, so.
It's fine.
Yeah, but I'll just very
You've
briefly.
whet my appetite, so.
I was, if anyone's a Howard Stern fan, I'll tell them afterwards.
Yeah.
It's something that, a drop that they use, but anyway. Distracted myself. So what I was gonna suggest is your ordinance defines what an accessory use and structure is. And by definition, in order for it to be accessory, it has to relate to another use on the property. So because this use doesn't relate to any, so let me give you an example.
No, it's fine, I get it. Yeah, it's fine. So because there's no other use on the property, Mr.
Even
Herman,
if there was another use on the property, which there is, the vacant gas.
if it doesn't relate to
If
it,
it doesn't relate to it, then
Right.
there's two principal uses on the. property.
right? So the gas station would have to have its own sign on the billboard for it to relate to the principal structure.
Yes, it would have to be a sign advertising only, well, let me rephrase that, and before you ask Ed, because we didn't go through the analysis yet. Based on your ordinance.
Come on.
Based on the borough's ordinance. The billboard is only defined by its size. So any sign, whether it's 10,000 square feet or 5 square feet. If it doesn't advertise an on-premise use, for example, if it's not a gas station.
Consider the billboard.
No, then it's considered a principal use. It's only accessory if it's related to the use that's there. What I was going to do.
I'm listening.
In order for it to be accessory, it has to be incidental or related to the use that's there. So for example. And you're gonna hear this later when I make my arguments, I'm just gonna give you a brief. Let's say the gas station's gone and this is now a retail store. Okay? If this same billboard over there and 24/7, it only advertised the name of the store or happenings related to the store. It would still be a billboard by definition, because your definition of billboard is only limited to square footage. So it would still be a billboard, but not in the common parlance of the term billboard that we all know, outdoor advertising. But because it's advertising the use on the property and it's an accessory sign, it would be a permitted accessory use. But because this is not related to anything, it's a principal.
It's a principal use.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go into it.
No, it's great.
in much
Sherman, do you agree?
nice way.
He agrees. Cool, we're good.
Just real quick, just curious, what if the business had a slice as you would put it?
Still,
Still would
because
be.
there's 64 other slices, however.
Okay.
There are 8, actually 7 other slices. Because there are 7 other slices that are advertising off premise, partially accessory, but I could never win that argument. Not with Ed, not with Kevin, certainly not with Sean.
And Madam Chair, just, and again, I appreciate you answering these questions. Just in terms of Ed's, our board engineers review memorandum pointed out some questions or comments about that this sign will be visible from the river or visible from an area in a zone. Exactly, but I'll get to that. But just as a practical matter, in terms of your experience and this, if there is residential development that it's seen by, I've looked at some of these other pictures and I didn't necessarily, when you said Lincoln Tunnel and things like that, I didn't necessarily see things that are visible from residential areas. So what's your experience with that? Have you had other complaints? Have you had billboards that are visible by residential areas? What's your take on that?
And it's not billboards, because we have a billboard. I think you mean a digital billboard.
Digital billboard.
I want to clarify that. Do you have digital billboards that face residential uses or areas?
Yes.
Okay, and historically, while there may have been some concern during the modernization process, now that it's up, I think Kevin's asking, have there been complaints? Has anyone from the town reached out to you? Regards to the ambient lighting or it somehow being a problem for those residents?
No, we haven't had any issues after the construction.
And is that, again, I'm not trying to get you, have those been 20-foot signs or 30-foot signs or 40-foot signs, or is that not even relevant to the context of being near a residential area or visible from a residential area?
I don't recall the specific heights of signs of those issues, but those were issues that we worked through during our approval process with each individual township on how they wanted to address the proximity to residents.
Okay, and then just on A15, which was the proposed sign message, and it said temporary borough sign. And I know, Jennifer, you spoke about that, but I didn't write it down. What is the significance of the picture with the temporary borough sign?
Because they're putting it there now. So they're clearly, the borough feels that this is a location that they would like to have a public service announcement. Someone is trekking out that roll cart and putting the cones up and displaying it on the subject property. So what we're showing is that it's not just lip service to offer the use of the sign to the borough. It's actually a public benefit that the borough has a need for, as evidenced by the fact they're currently doing it.
Okay, thank you. And then last question is just so I know, because I'm sort of fascinated by this industry of all the things that we're learning, but and I know you talked about the 8 seconds, but what does that mean in terms of how many advertisements per day? Or, I mean, what are those type of numbers or a week, or what are the, if you know those numbers?
Actually, yeah.
And while you're looking for the numbers, like, can I just supplement your question, Kevin?
Of course.
When you have a loop of advertisers, is it the same 8 advertisers that continually play throughout the day, or does it switch?
It typically is the same. I mean, sometimes people's campaigns end on, Tuesday night, and on Wednesday, you'll see 1 or 2 of them new or something like that. But in all general terms, it's the same group of advertisers that continue to rotate through on a basis.
And how, when they buy the 8-second slot that's rotated throughout the loop, throughout the 24 hours, how long is that typically when you have a contract to sell a slice of pizza? How long is that?
The average contract length is 8 weeks.
I'm sorry?
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
We can sell by the day, as pointed out previously. We could, in theory, sell by the hour. However, there's no demand for that from our advertisers. So daily would be the shortest amount of time that I would typically see. Weekly is more common than daily. Bi-weekly is more common than weekly. 3 weeks is more common than 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. Typically, it is 4-week increments. And that's just kind of a standard practice of how our business is operated and bought. But we do have the flexibility to offer those options to advertisers based on their need.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I do have.
Oh, thanks.
So an advertiser who were to buy one slice, or you keep using that analogy, would typically receive 1,350 8-second ads during a 24-hour period.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board for this particular witness? Any questions from the public? Now, this is questions, not comments.
Do you know the definition of grandfather?
You need to come up, sir.
And I would just ask the board chair
Yes, yes.
to not have the public ask legal interpretation questions of the witness for fact purposes.
Okay,
That's clearly.
Hey, my name is-
okay.
I'm not yelling anything.
Okay, hold on one second, sir. So it'll be answered at another time.
So I'm
Okay.
going to make the legal argument.
Okay.
He's not here as a legal expert.
Correct.
No.
Okay, for his witness.
I just.
For his witness.
All right, so why don't we just, what we're gonna do is, and this is apply for everyone, in accordance with case law, we're gonna just have your name, your address, and we're gonna swear you in. State your name, please.
My name's Andrew Deming, and I live at 79 Record Place in Red Bank,
Okay, and just spell your last name.
MING.
DEMING. All right, well, good evening and thank you for coming. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
You can pick that up.
So I just wanna, like, I was serious about this, she said that, I was serious with my question, do you know the definition of grandfather? I just wanna read it, a grandfather clause.
No, sir.
Do you know it?
What, sir,
Yeah.
questions.
Are you aware of the definition of a grandfather clause? Because what you described earlier doesn't seem that you're aware of the definition.
Okay, so let's bring that question to the applicant, unless we have,
No, I object. It's a legal
To
question.
the applicant. These are questions for the applicant, the gentleman that was just giving testimony.
No, I guess that was my only question.
Okay, all right. Anyone else have a question for this witness? Yes. Question.
hello, name and address for the record.
Cindy Burns, 71 Wallace Street. Are you aware?
You know what, we'll just swear you in. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you're providing, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
The name is familiar, but how do we spell this?
Like, don't burn the hand.
You know what? You use that one from.
I use it all.
Yeah.
It's the only way to spell.
And what was your address? I missed it.
71 Wallace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cindy.
Cindy, just pick up the mic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Are you aware that this is the busiest junction in town?
Yes,
And do you spoke about, how you wanted to engage the drivers? Said you want to engage in a manner.
I believe I mentioned our advertisers want to have an engaging message for people to view should they choose it.
And do you think people in the busiest junction of town should be looking at your sign, like, what did it say? And I mean, there's like how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 streets that come into this area?
Is that a question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
But
What do you think? Do you think that's a wise?
I'm not here, but.
It doesn't matter. It's just a busy junction. I'm asking you if you think that it's wise to have a sign like you're suggesting in area that you're trying to put it.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for this witness? Yes, sir. Swear in.
My name is Jay.
You just have to pick up the mic. Pick up the mic.
Or sit down.
Or sit down.
Good evening, Mr. Herman. Welcome to the Red Bank Zoning Board. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes,
And just for the record, business address or address?
my home address is 11 Vista Place in Red Bank.
Thank you.
It's the Red Bank about 30 years.
I'm sorry.
And what's your?
I'm sorry, the Jay.
Herman, Herman.
Not related for the record, Mr. Ed Herman.
And let the record reflect his last name is spelled wrong.
So I apologize. I didn't catch your name.
John.
First name is John. You said that you have 22 billboard signs.
I believe it is 22.
Okay, do you know how many signs, billboards there are in that? So
At least one more than the 22.
So now I can tell you, because I've studied it, now that you've abandoned one of the two billboards on that property, 25, so you own 22. Okay. I thought it was important. And later, when I speak in the comment section, I'll speak to that one.
Okay, you don't have a question? No question?
That was his
Got one.
question.
So one other question, you talked about, I'm sorry, Mr.
And Gasky.
Ankowski, thank you. Was asking you about the revenue that's produced by the digital sign versus the. And you said it might be, is it likely to be 10 times more?
So I believe the original question was narrowed down, and I did confirm that the location would be more. Going from a static to a digital.
Is it
would be more.
likely to be 10 times or more?
Don't have that number.
Is it, well, you don't have the number, but you have, I think you said 69.
93.
93, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Digital billboards in New Jersey. Surely you know how the revenue of advance from former static billboards to the new digital.
Yes.
For the Google though, it is likely that it's tenfold as much as it was before.
No. I don't know. Talking about a grouping of 93. And each one is a different location,
So
and they vary based on location.
Just to clarify, I believe the testimony was that it depends on the individual sign and the individual location as to the difference in. Sure.
But when you say you don't know, surely you would be attempting to get more static billboards converted to digital. You didn't know that they're much.
Right.
I think that is.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Name and address?
Good evening. Name is Bob Zuckerman. My business address is 46 English Plaza in Red Bank. I live in Asbury Park, but I'm the executive director of the Red Bank River Center. So
Okay, good evening and welcome. If you could just raise your right hand, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God? Thank you.
Okay, I have two questions for John. The first is, do you know if there are any 93 digital billboards in New Jersey currently that are in downtowns that are not on state highways?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
Okay, so you don't know. Okay, then my second question would be, can you tell us, if you know, what percentage of the advertisers on the 93 digital billboards in New Jersey are either regional or national advertisers?
It's typically that number is 30%.
30% are either regional or national.
Correct.
So the 70% then are all local advertisers?
Correct.
Okay,
That's a rough estimate, yes.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Suzanne Moscone, 25 Cedar Street,
I didn't understand.
SUZ.
Hold on, Suzanne. I'm sorry.
I didn't understand.
Suzanne
Okay,
Moscone,
Suzanne.
SUZ, ANNE, V is a Victor, ISCOMI, 25 Cedar, CEDAR Street.
All right, good evening and welcome. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide to the extent you're providing will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
For local businesses, would they be getting a discounted rate if they advertise on your sign? For example, if we are going to have an advertising to go to a restaurant in Rumson, it's kind of counterintuitive when we want people to come to Red Bank. So there's businesses that are in town get a discounted rate to promote our business center.
That was not our intention, no.
Yes, sir. Come on, right up.
And Mr. Carpenter, you're still under oath, Gary Carpenter.
John, I just had one question. How many years have you been leasing a leaseor of the space that the advertising?
The sign has been there since the 1960s, so over 50 years.
So your company has been, you've been there, you didn't buy it from somebody else, you've been here all
No.
years.
So obviously, you know, with industries such as ours, there is consolidation.
Okay.
So I'm sure that there was, you know, consolidation and that would have been something that we purchased. Outfront Media didn't come into existence until 2013 or 14, which is why I said in my testimony, I've been in the business 19 years, all without.
Well, Outfront Media has
Hey,
been-
Mr. Moore, if you could just let him answer the question.
So again, I've been in the business for 19 years. I've been with Outfront all those times or its predecessor companies.
So the Outfront Media has had this property since 2013.
So the leasing on that property goes back much longer than Outfront Media existed.
Okay, I understand that. But Outfront Media has been there for 13, since 2013. I mean, we can't hold you accountable for something that happened 40 years ago if your company didn't exist then. So I'm just saying, you've had it since 2013.
The company has been in existence since 2013.
Yes, sir.
Name and address?
My name is Tom Houston, and I live in Marlboro. My property is 59-61 Northbridge Avenue. So,
And I'm sorry, it was Tom Houston?
Tom Houston.
Okay, good evening and welcome.
Yep.
Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge to help you God? Thank you.
My question is, I'm reading the document.
Just try and speak up a little.
I'm reading the document from the attorney's office, and if my understanding correct, that the current sign that's there, from the ground to the top of the sign is 22 feet. And the sign will be from the ground to the top of the sign will be 40 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at this time for this witness? Okay,
Can we take a health break? out of
yes,
here?
absolutely. We're gonna take about a 7-minute break.
I mean, exactly.
There. Jennifer, we have, one of our members had one more question for your previous witness.
Okay, we have to get, I know his name. Oh, there he is. He said, I'm gonna have to walk around and bad me. Sorry, I revealed that, but we don't.
I was reading through the state of New Jersey permit that you provided as one of your exhibits. And on the second page, I couldn't help but notice an entry that raised my curiosity. It shows Route 520 on the west side, 16 feet west of New Jersey Transit Railroad track. Was also approved for multi-message media. Is that also in Red Bank?
I believe that is. I believe that's the permit listing.
Yes,
that you're referring to?
yes, the permit.
So yes, that would be another state digital permit for a multi-message
No,
sign.
but is it in Red Bank or is it in Shrewsbury?
I'm not sure, I don't have.
Show me the exhibit.
So I'm looking, I was looking, I got a couple papers.
I guess it's A9.
But I think what Mr. Lay is trying to ask is this, did Outdoor Media already receive a state permit to digitize that sign?
Down by the tracks.
Correct. I believe this page is referencing
All of Red Bank.
items located in Red Bank.
Okay, but my question was, so Outdoor Media has already received a state permit to digitize another sign located in Red Bank, right?
Correct. We hold a number of digital.
Okay, I think the question was just because of the fact that you testified that you didn't have any other plans to digitize signs, so. But Outdoor Media has already made an application to the state to digitize another sign in Red Bank, right?
Outfront Media has made an application to secure digital permits, yes,
For another sign in Red Bank, correct?
yes.
So your testimony before, was that inaccurate or was it just a mistake?
It was needed. Just because we hold a state digital permit doesn't mean we intend to go for a local application.
But, okay, I'm not trying to hurt you, John.
No,
I'm just trying to understand.
But it's part of the business, and I'd like to explain a little bit further. So one of the things that you can do with a state permit is you can space out other people from that state permit.
So let me say it a different way. Because there's distance requirements, we hold a permit there, it means nobody else can. So it doesn't mean we're developing a digital sign there, but we basically, it's kind of like I hear people say, if they're getting a divorce, go see Allison Ansell, even if you're not gonna hire her, so the spouse can't. It's the same thing, it's basically securing the permit.
Church, and Outfront Media owns 22 of the 25 billboards, right?
Again, I don't know for certain, that was a public comment.
Okay, so did,
Yes,
okay, so did Outfront Media get this state permit to prevent some other company from getting the permit on the distance requirements?
At this point, I would have to say yes, since we have no future plans in Red Bank other than the application that's here in front of you tonight.
Okay.
and just for the board's edification, the distance between digital billboards is 3,000 feet is the requirement. So if we secure that, if there's any other billboards within 3,000 feet, they don't get to digitize.
I do have a question in that, just to explain this. These are all Red Bank addresses. What is, there's a no, yes, yes, yes. And the one that we're talking about right tonight, it has the 480 square feet. The one above is 1,000, the other one's 600, and the other one's 600. The top one says no. The bottom three say yes. I'm just curious to explain this sheet of paper. You know, adding to what Vince was saying.
So on that sheet of paper, this is the permit listing from the New Jersey Department of Transportation Outdoor Advertising Department. The column that indicates no's and yeses, at the top, you'll see it says multi-message. That is indicating if the permit contains a multi-message component.
And multi-message is synonymous with digital.
Okay.
Right?
Correct. And the number on the far right, this is the square footage permitted for that permit.
Okay.
Any other questions or can we move?
Any other questions for John?
Just one comment. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that billboard that's being referenced is on the south side of Newman Springs, which would technically mean it's not Red Bank.
It says west. It's 520 west.
Best on the right.
520 west.
Which is the way that goes west.
First.
I didn't see a sign, but okay.
It's on,
There's definitely one that shows up on Google Earth Street View on the south side of Newman Springs. I didn't see one on the north.
no, it's on the north side,
It is on the north side.
next to the exotic cars. So when you're.
Okay. I got you.
It's on your left side.
Fair enough.
So it's in Red Bank.
I was looking at the other
But
track.
tomorrow might be a different answer, correct? So tonight, as far as you know, you're not doing this. to another sign?
We have no plans at this time.
Even though you have a permit, you have no plans. Tomorrow morning it might be different, correct?
Yes, things.
Okay.
Can change every 8 seconds.
There you go.
Back to the pizza slice.
Couldn't help it.
Okay, I think we're finished with this witness and we'll bring up another.
Great. So our next witness will be the project engineer, Tiago Duarte. Hopefully I'm saying that one. Well, I've read these names 1,000 times.
It is.
Is that right?
All right, Tiago, good evening and welcome to the Red Van zoning board. If you could just say your name, business address, and why don't you spell your first and last name?
Tiago Duarte, Duarte. Business address is 50 Park Place, Newark, New Jersey, 071.
All right, and I think you might have to even get a little closer. Do you swear, if you could just raise your right hand, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, so help you God? And just for the record, you're testifying tonight in your capacity as a licensed engineer?
License still on.
Thank you.
How'd you like it?
Yeah.
So, Tiago, let's just take a minute and qualify you as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Certainly. I graduated Rutgers University with a bachelor's of science in civil engineering in 2011. I'm practicing in the field of land development, and civil engineering since then.
Give me 1 second. Mark, can you hear him in the back? Okay, thank you.
Licensed in the state of New Jersey in 2016, and my license is active. As a field work experience, I've worked on over 40 applications.
We'd submit them as an.
Have you testified in any other towns?
Yes, I have.
Can you name one?
Yeah, for billboards specifically, or just in general, Hazlet, Neptune,
How about billboards?
Hazlet, Neptune.
Okay,
Digital billboards.
digital billboards.
Yes, Hazlet. and Neptune.
As, okay, thank you, we accept you.
Thank you.
So I know that we went over it somewhat in the other testimony, but let's just go back and just indicate what exhibit you're referencing as we do this. Let's talk about, the site from an engineering perspective and what work you did in order to prepare for this application.
Sure. So as far as work with the application, my office was pertaining to prepare the site survey, as well as the site plans, exhibits that have been submitted, and assist with the application as well. Additional responsibilities include visiting the site on a number of occasions, as well as the surrounding area.
And your office attended the brain test, which is how we created the exhibit that we moved into evidence as.
Yes, I personally.
Okay, so I think this the site has been located. And we've identified it, and identified the reason that was here. Let's talk about the site plan that existing, or the site is existing and what. So this is which sheet within the site plan set that we moved in as A4. We did call it a bulk variance plan, but we can see that it is a minor site plan because minor site plan is required. We will revise the name. I would just defer to Ed, but I believe that we meet all the minor site plan requirements in this plan.
So what I have up on the easel there is sheet of the entitled site plan, and that is the full variance plan package that was. So what we have on site currently existing today is a vacant fuel and certification. At the south end of the property is the existing boarding equipment that we discussed it currently. The site is accessible from Bridge Avenue via full movement driveway. There's also access from Riverside Avenue, as Route 35. As I mentioned, the existing billboard is at the south of the property, and it's really located there, or at least to my knowledge, or where that was built originally, be out of the circulation aisles to not impede traffic and circulation on the curves. As far as specifics of that existing sign, you heard already that it's 12 feet by 40 feet for a overall area of 480 square feet. The overall height currently is 22 feet. Question earlier about the clearance and their 10 feet clearance below the sign.
And when you say clearance, just so everyone's on the same page, that's it's 10 feet to the bottom of the sign panel starts.
Correct. So 10 feet between the grade and pavement and the bottom of the sign face. The structure itself is steel I-beams. Those I-beams support the structure and the framework that the final message is affixed to. Current. And what we are proposing, as you all heard earlier, is modernized sign. So part of the modernization, you heard that structure cannot support the digital components that are necessary. Standards that have to be met for that structure, so you can take that structure is required. That structure will be located generally in the same area for the same reason, not impede circulation of the site, not hinder potential reading that site has existed previously, or any potential future development. We're trying to stay clear of anything that could potentially be developed there. And to our knowledge, we don't have any plans or understanding of what could be there in the future. So the front setback, front setback from First Avenue is going to be 25 feet. That is aligned with the front yard setback. So we located it there, as you heard previously from Mr. Antal, to increase visibility to the bridge. And as part of that reconstruction that occurred, shifting it over to will improve the visibility back to the highway.
Okay, but so we shifted it over to the west, but we're still maintaining the front yard setback for principal structure.
Correct. Still applies to the department.
I have a question. Would this be considered an expansion of the current billboard, or would it be considered a new?
Just want me to jump into these legal interpretations.
Oh, I'm just asking a question. I'm allowed to ask a question.
Just teasing, I'm teasing. What I'm suggesting is the applicant's position is that it is not an expansion, and I'm gonna go into all the legal reasons why.
Okay.
Again, he's not here as a planner, he's only here as an engineer. So he's only testifying as to the meat and potatoes of what we're proposing, not how it constitutes something the ordinance.
Well, I wasn't asking that. I was just asking, as an engineer, is this an expansion of that current sign, or is this a brand new sign?
Are you asking if from a physical perspective?
Just from a physical, from a physical.
A physical perspective,
Yeah.
you indicated it is a brand new sign. Correct?
Correct, brand new sign. The dimensions of the sign are 11.55 feet by 39.37 feet for a total area of 454.72 square feet. That's, as you heard earlier, it's about a 25-foot reduction, about a 5% reduction from what's out there today.
And there's only one pole on this one.
Single steel pole.
I'm sorry, you're cutting off at the end.
Single pole, the structure.
And you said it was a 5% reduction.
5% reduction from the existing 480 square feet.
5.3 being exact.
All right, and then just so that I'm getting my terms right, 5.3 reduction in what?
Sign face area.
Sign face area, thank you.
You just, I'm getting a little confused. It's probably me. It's getting tired. So it's 11 foot overall this way?
11.55, yes.
So I'm just a little confused. We just stated a few minutes ago would be 10, the sign would be 10 feet off the ground.
Ground. No, the existing sign is 10 feet. He hasn't offered.
Oh, okay. Oh,
testimony.
That's me. Like I said, I'm getting tired.
So on that note, yes, the overall height of the proposed sign is 40 feet. The clearance for the proposed sign is 28.45. That's raised to the bottom of the sign.
Okay, and we've indicated that we have done some simulations.
Just before we
Okay.
step back, so it's 25 feet to Bridge Avenue, 94.5 feet to River.
I'm sorry, 25 feet setback, what setback is that?
The front.
Front setback to Bridge,
94.5 feet to Riverside Avenue.
94 point,
Oh, sorry, 93.4.
93.4 foot front setback to Riverside. Thank you.
Side setback to the south, the proposed is 0.6 feet. Where the existing is 0.2, so it is an increase there. Or 10 feet is required.
0.2 existing and 0.6 proposed.
Correct.
And that would be, just for the record, that would be what side? That 0.2 right now, are we calling that side?
Side is, it's
Side
the
setback.
south side, and it is the
Got it.
side yard.
Thank you.
Okay, so now referencing A16 in evidence, which are the simulations, let's go through that page by page and explain what the photos are and how they were prepared.
Sure, so
Hey, I'm sorry, just Jennifer, for record keeping purposes, and maybe you'll get this, were these prepared by this witness?
I took the pictures, these were prepared by graphic design.
Thank you.
Under your supervision.
Correct, under my supervision.
Thank you.
So the cover sheet is just. Brings up, which was.
Well, why don't you explain what a crane test is?
Sure. So get to the first, page 2. So a crane test basically out front, we'll bring a bucket truck to the site and we will locate it based on 25 feet back from Bridge Avenue, located where the proposed is going. We will verify the dimensions, so it's in the appropriate location. We'll raise it to the proposed height of 40 feet. And we will raise the panel, you can see in the picture, it's just to the right of the existing sign, what you can see is a small rectangular outline. Showing what is raised, and what that panel signifies is the leading edge of the proposed sign. So it represents the sign height, as well as where it would be located in relation to the roadway.
And the purpose for doing this is so we can, as we're gonna see later, superimpose to scale what the sign would look like from this exact vantage.
Correct. So moving over to page 3.
Before we go to page 3,
If I can ask just a question, the setback off a bridge, is that to the side of the sign? It's actually not to where the sign is, but it's to the pole hanging the sign. Is
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
the setback off of Bridge Avenue is,
25 feet.
so that's to where the sign is or to the,
Edge of the sign.
it is to the edge of the sign? Okay.
When you look at existing conditions, you can actually see the existing billboard to the left of the bridge, correct?
Yeah.
So the next page, shows what?
Next page shows what the sign will look like. Basically, it's scale it correctly to the panel that we raised. And we locate it directly on top of that panel, so not see directly behind that leading edge or the right edge of that sign.
So this is an accurate picture of what the proposed sign would look like if traveling southbound on Route 35 off Cooper's Bridge at 500 feet from the sign.
That is correct.
Next one is same vantage point, just a different 8-second slant.
Different copy.
What's the advertising?
This is
And there were questions with regard to what the sign will look like from the back, so the last photo.
We also took pictures from the neighborhood, same frame in place. And what we superimposed on this image from 55 Record Place is what people see from the back. That there's no copy with no image. We're a structure, it's just the panels were LED modules.
Maybe that's where I'm getting confused. That sign is behind the ice cream, am I looking at the right picture?
Well, you're looking at the right picture, but it's from Rector Place, it's not from Bridge.
From Rector.
It looks like it's near the ice cream place, but it isn't. Do you have a picture from Bridge?
I know I have extras.
Sean, you're one street over, you're looking behind the ice
Yes.
cream place,
I do have one.
seeing the side of the sign.
Oh, you're confused.
A17,
The sign.
A17 is a picture, well, first of all, before we pass that one out, you could please go up to the aerial and show Mr. Murphy where the 55 Rector Place, I got it, where the 55 Rector Place angle is taken.
The sign there.
So going back to our aerial from the site plan. 55 Rector is located just where that 200-foot radius intersects the white line.
You know what? Let's just, we're gonna have.
Okay.
Okay.
But we have to show you on here because the Google Earth shot wasn't moved into evidence, so we can't rely on you looking at it. So let's just take a quick look at.
When were these, I have a question, when were these pictures taken?
Last Friday.
They were,
Yes.
Because that gas station thing is like, what is that thing? Am I missing something? Is this one? Oh, forget it. This one is still. Okay.
I promise you the last Friday.
All right, now Jennifer, just, things are moving too quick here, so I just wanna, what you just submitted, we're gonna mark as A17?
Correct.
And what is A17?
A17 is a photo simulation taken from 61 Bridge Avenue. But if I could just go back,
Sure.
and because a lot was going on at once, Tiago, if you could please point on the screen where the 55 Rector Place photo was taken.
Sure. So 55 Record Place is just about where the.
I get it now.
Intersects the white line denoting the zone change. So
And the 61 Bridge, where is that?
61 Bridge is
It is.
behind to the south along. Or it's like,
I agree.
And A17 that I just moved into evidence, that is a generated scale view.
Yeah.
of what the view would be from 61 Bridge Avenue.
yes, you're looking at the rear of the proposed structure. And just to go back for a second to the 55 Record Place, you're looking across the. So, you're looking, it's right in the road of Record Place, and that have frontages on both Record Place and Bridge Avenue. And that's our sign is beyond that.
And I think now is a great time to looking at the front of the sign and the back of the sign. Let's discuss the lighting of the sign and what's actually going to be visible, how it works, and who's going to see it.
So the sign consists of panels that are mounted to. The sign consists of a frame, a steel frame, and to the steel frame, LED modules are attached. And with the LED module, they're about 12 by 12 squares. Each square contains an array of LEDs, with red, blue, green, primary diodes. These diodes, when illuminated, really use a combination to generate the actual image. So on and off, all you see are the black phase, black phase, there's no light. And that's what the modules are. It's good.
Let's talk about the directional aspect. What this public will see, if there's any sky glow, that.
Sure. So the LED modules, these squares where the diodes are affixed, they contain little louvers, which are just There are fields above and below the diodes. And the intent of that is to directionalize the light so that you're not getting spillage going up and down, but you're making sure and ensuring that it's getting to the target audience, which is the public on the traffic on Route 35. So it does not have sky glow, which is traditional and, static billboard where you have up lights or down lights. You get a halo effect. That's the image that's being created with the diodes is crisp. It's being projected just perpendicular to the screen to the sign face, where on a static you're relying on the reflectivity of the vinyl to bounce the light back.
So to put in a simpler term, if I'm standing at 61 Bridge at night and I'm looking at the back of the sign, there is, and again, not having studied the wattage, the lights that are shining on it, but there's a potential based on it not being internally illuminated and not having the same electronic advances, there's a chance that you may see some glow around the back of that sign.
Under existing conditions, correct. So the current sign is illuminated with two uplights. There's two lights mounted at the base of the sign, and it shines up onto the sign face.
So there's no question then that you would see light as if you're standing in this.
To the rear of, yes, correct.
Now, in the proposed condition, are we going to see any of the light, or based on your description of how it works from an engineering perspective, it's not going to blow out the sides or the bottom or the top of the screens in the back?
No light is emitted from the rear of the structure. No.
I'm sorry, no light.
It's emitted from the rear base, the rear of the sign.
Thank you.
And the operational controls, meaning how can you be sure that the dimming is going to work, automatically adjust based on the ambient lighting?
So just taking a step back there, being that there's no copy, there's no physical image or physical display, it's all relying on those diodes to create an image. The sign has to adjust during the day. During the day, you've got sunlight, you've got ambient lighting, which is far exceeds what is typical at night. So you've got to overcome that so that you have an image that will be able to be seen during the day. So that same intensity of illumination during the daytime is not good practice for night. So it automatically dims down. Each of these digital signs has a photo cell, an ambient light monitor, which will automatically dim the lighting to a preset level for nighttime. But it also adjusts if it's a cloudy day, if it's overcast. It's not going to put out the same output as if it's a blue sky, sunny day.
Okay, and one of the things that John had testified to is that if there's a problem with the sign, it's not going to start flashing or going haywire, it's just gonna go dark.
Correct. The programming is such that if there's any malfunction, it turns off.
Okay, and how does it work? Excuse me, that is it an internal function that directs the light to the 35?
It's a function of the diodes. So in developing the LED technology, the louvers that I mentioned, that directionalizes the light, but just the LEDs themselves are directionalized. So you're not getting the uplight and the downlight like I mentioned, but there's also a viewing angle that's limited. So similar to a television or your cell phone, once you start rotating around the screen, the image starts to, you lose the image. So for example, I'm looking at the laptop in front of me, I can't see anything on the screen with my angle to do that time phase screen. Sorry. So the LED technology not only prevents the up and down, but it also restricts the side to side and how visible it is from, how visible the image can be from certain distances away from it.
Okay, and we studied where the light was going to be and who was going to see it. We prepared an exhibit that we moved in as A10, and we called it the lighting exhibit. Created. What does this show?
So the lighting exhibit is map depicts the proposed sign at the center of the page outlined in white. That's the parcel. The sign is depicted in red, just so it stands out a little better. There's a yellow parabola, we call it, that. Yeah, just. Yeah. We see that. So then around the semicircle that emanates and begins at each side of the sign base.
So just to clarify, the sign face is shown in red
Correct.
and it's labeled proposed off-premise multi-message sign. That's in an accurate location where we're proposing.
So where is the sweet spot on for this?
That's our next exhibit.
I mean, from this exhibit, if you look at the yellow, is the sweet spot directly in front of the display?
So this is, right. This does not depict what the optimal view is. It's simply showing where the sign will have influence as far as this lighting goes.
It speaks as to foot camera, which I think this board is familiar with, and that's how you measure the light impact around it. So what we wanted to do, just so you understand, is show where is this light going to affect? And so, as Thiago explained, this yellow circle shows the limits of where the foot candles go 0.3 above the regular ambient light. So it's basically showing where this light will be seen. Not where you can see the light, but where the light is actually going.
And just.
Did I accurately describe that?
Yes, for the most part. So just taking a step back, the limit is established based on an all-white sign face. So this is a conservative depiction. So that yellow limit that surrounds the sign, that's a worst case scenario.
So what you're saying is a white sign face is going to shed more light than one of the darker sign faces.
So there'll be dials will be off, dials will be in a different color, and the intensity of what's being emitted from the sign base will be less. So this is the worst case scenario.
And again, I know that it's not the industry standards. The reason you chose the 0.3 foot candles above the ambient light, because that is the industry standard.
Yes, it's the standard that's established by the Outdoor Advertising Association of America, based on recommendations from the Leading Society of North America. So that's arrived at 0.3. Magic to that number is anything beyond that would be problematic for travel or impact, sorry.
Okay, so the area in the yellow is the area where the maximum light would be, and in looking at it, it's on our property, within the right of way, and a small portion of it in the parking lot across the street. But is that correct? Okay, and one of the questions that I might ask, the viewing area. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to exhibit. Yes, and then that one is day 11.
Look at the titled sign viewed angle exhibit. And similar to the last one, we have the sign located if it's red. Which is outlined in white. The sign is again located in its proposed location, 25 feet back from the bridge. And what this image, this exhibit is showing is two red lines which come off and meet in the center of the proposed sign. The red lines signify a 60-degree line off of that 60-degree plane off of the center of the sign. And the magic with the 60-degree is that the LEDs, as was mentioned, are directionalized. Beyond 60 degrees, it's not a visible. The sign image is not visible.
Okay, so the outside, so the area within that is where the sign is most visible.
Correct. So north of the two red lines that come off the center of the proposed sign.
And again, that angle is basically facing Route 35 south coming up this bridge, which is why this is the ideal site.
Correct.
That answer your question, Mr. Lane?
Yes, but I have one more question. What's the optimal distance from the display to view it? Like, obviously, if you're very far away, you won't be able to read it. what's the optimal distance?
Right, so that, yeah, again, that gets into what's being displayed. Okay,
But generally,
generally an optimal distance would be. Again, I hate to say it depends, but it does depend as far as what you're reading, it can change.
Well, like, for example, one of your diagrams showed 500 feet away, and you couldn't make out what's on the billboard from 500 feet. So what would be an optimal distance?
I would say for some, depending on the copy there, 500 feet would be a good distance to be able to read it. For example, if the whole message was just a Nike swoosh or a McDonald's and logo, from 500 feet, that would certainly be recognizable. But if you're putting more into the copy, more letters, phone number or something, for example, then yes, you want to be closer than that height. So the optimal distance will depend on what's being displayed.
And do you have the 500 feet listed on this somewhere?
I do not know.
can you point it out?
Yeah.
And that's a great point, and I'm not sure we don't have that.
Just to get also perspective of where this was taken.
That's our bad.
Going, so I can use 500 foot image, which I took. And right for the striping of the roadway, right where the 500 feet is right about, you're looking at the New Jersey State Highway 35 letters that we have. And you trace it all the way to the end of the floor striping. That's about my fingers here.
And I can tell you, we're not gonna complete tonight, obviously, so we will.
This is probably a good time to start deciding when the next time you're gonna come.
Well, in that.
So finish that question.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say is we can bring an exhibit to show it exactly. All right, so does that mean drop dead cut off that we cannot finish having permanent testimony?
That's correct, because it dropped on day 10 months.
We were almost done.
Okay, so when do you want to come back? What do we have available? Sorry?
What's the date of the next meeting?
14 days.
16th.
No.
16th.
Darn it. Yeah.
I'll be on vacation.
Okay, so what's the next meeting?
Yeah, 16.
I'm sorry,
March 2nd.
March 2nd?
March 2nd.
In Arizona.
No.
We're just trying to figure out a date to come back right now.
Gotcha. Let's be up.
Hybrid.
March 16th?
No, I'm not, I'm available February 16th, not available March 16th.
Right.
Your planner wasn't available?
But she can send somebody else, we'll make it. I'll make it work.
Okay,
What do we do, February 16th?
February 16th? I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir. Can you step up and tell me?
Just take your name for the record.
Yeah. Okay,
Please, no, I have the same problem. And I can point to my property on this map. It's
what's your name?
Andrew Deming.
March 2nd?
It's my house.
You do without me, sure, so
Right.
I'm not available for March 2nd.
March 16th?
April 20th.
Not available.
20th.
You're not available?
I have hearings in Ocean Township. that
Good
night.
April
What's the next one?
20th.
April 20th?
Holy shit.
Is it possible, do you guys do special hearings or no? Because you have.
Generally, no.
I have,
No.
okay. Just want to make sure it was the same answer.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, April 20th, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what we're gonna do for ladies and gentlemen of the public, this is important. We're gonna carry this application to April 20th, 2023. 6:30 PM without the need for any further public notice. So you're not gonna get another notice. This is your notice. So if any of your friends couldn't come or they had to leave early, please let them know. Couple other things, Jennifer Krimko, do you, on behalf of your client, consent to extend the time frame within which the board has to act?
Generally or specifically? Generally and specifically, yes.
Thank you for that. And a couple other real quick things. So Jennifer Krimko, I know earlier in the night you said that the owner is here and available for testimony. Maybe you should have him or her back to come back just in case. Secondly, Shauna, I know there was a lot of issues, and just to prevent any further timing issues, do we submit anything to our Red Bank Traffic Safety Office about this proposal?
This was submitted, to traffic safety and
Okay.
police department, no comments.
Okay.
I can always-
So we'll follow up with them just in case. And third, our friend Chris Ann is going to make sure, in case we don't have the same board members here, that hopefully they can listen to the tapes or review the transcripts. And speaking of that, Jennifer, if your wonderful court reporter does have the transcripts, send them into Chris Ann so that we can distribute them. And finally, I would just ask, just in case it comes up, you could, I'm assuming John Antal will come back on your hearing in case, hopefully. Great. All right, so Madam Chair, with that, if we could have.
That's one quick question. This exhibit, the light.
For
Did it hurt me? The light brought up the great point.
Please, Jay, can you just speak up a little bit
Sit down.
I'm sorry.
or sit down by the mic? That would be helpful.
Mike's been moved.
No, I think he's asking a question. Are you asking a question?
Asking a question. This schedule. The light pointed out. For instance, includes other state permits for this applicant, Red Bank. But it's impossible to know. I can't tell from these abbreviations. Billboards and stuff.
Okay, so can we identify that for the next meeting?
Well, I'd like it before that, because I'd like to go out and look at those. billboards.
And then,
Yeah, so you tell us right now, and just.
No, we can't.
Well, if you could get it, maybe we could call it, I mean,
I think you're gonna wait until April 20th.
that's not.
I'm sorry.
Well, let's just, I understand what you're saying. And your question has been presented, and hopefully the applicant will get us that information in time. And if they don't, then that might be a reason that the board's gonna need further information. So I think they'll get it. It's a good question, and I'm sure.
So I understand exactly what's being asked for on that sheet. You want to know the location.
I want to know, these descriptions are vague, I don't know what these are. Vague. So it's just a matter of identifying.
Great.
Okay, great.
And so,
Understand.
Okay.
and Madam Chair, so if that's acceptable to the board, we have a motion to carry this application to April 20th, 2023, 6:30 PM without the need for any further public notice.
Gray and red,
Second, okay. All right, motion to adjourn?
right?
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Just to make